Welcome, everyone. My name is Laura DeNardis, the Interim Dean of the School of Communication, and it is my pleasure to welcome everyone today to our Media Changemakers Conversation. We're joined today by an esteemed alumnus of American University, Michael Kempner, and I guarantee that this will be an interesting and exciting discussion knowing Michael. He is the founder and the Chief Executive Officer of MWWPR, one of the nation's largest independent public relations firms. He is a nationally recognized authority on reputation management, crisis management, we need that now, Michael, public affairs, business to business, consumer marketing, and corporate social responsibility. And he's counseled some of the world's most prominent executives, organizations, and companies. He's also an author and a speaker on a variety of public relations, management, entrepreneurship, and marketing topics. As an active member of his community in New York, he serves as chairman of the Manhattan Chamber of Commerce, in addition to many, many other things, a lot of social and civic engagement, and he is active in the American University community as a leader. We'll get to that in a little bit. Michael, if you don't mind me mentioning, you are also active in progressive politics and issues. You've played a role in the campaigns of President Barack Obama, Secretary Hillary Clinton, and currently Joe Biden. Welcome, Michael Kempner.
Well, thanks so much. I appreciate it. I have you've increased the expectations of me doing something interesting here, so I appreciate it.
Excellent, excellent. The first, I wanted to ask you a question around the meaning of your work for you. You've done a lot on corporate social responsibility, and your firm, MWWPR, you have offices spread around the country and also in the world, and you do the spectrum of PR work from creative content development to crisis management to consumer marketing. I wanted to ask you, what some of your client engagements, what are some of the client engagements that stick out the most to you, that have had the most meaning to you?
Well, and probably the ones that have the most meaning to me are the ones that I can't talk about. Much of our work is confidential. Obviously, much of our work is not. But to me, it's always been about those assignments that are complex, consequential, and important. Not to say that everything we do is not important to specific stakeholders, but there are just some things that when you look at are going to have a massive impact on a community, on a nation, on a particular sector of our economy. And so those are the ones where you really have to get up each day and say, am I as good as I think I am? There's no days off on those kind of things. So for me, the harder, the more impossible, the better.
Thank you. One thing that students find interesting about you is not just your industry expertise and success, but also the fact that you're an entrepreneur, because we have a lot of students that also have that feeling inside that they want to start something, they want to do something new, they want to start their own company or do something innovative. Could you talk a little bit about, when in your life did you decide that you wanted to start something? Is it something that you always wanted to do? And what advice would you have for the students that also have that entrepreneurial bug?
I'm an accidental entrepreneur. And, when I look back in my life, I was an entrepreneur my entire life, but didn't really know it. I didn't even know what the word meant. Even as a kid growing up in Illinois, and, I was always out there doing something entrepreneurial. I liked earning my own money, even when I was, 8, 9, 10 years old. And so, but I didn't know that was an entrepreneur. I mean, my goal my entire life was to get into politics. And I picked American University because I was coming to Washington to change the world. I was coming to Washington to be in politics. After doing politics for 10 years, I continued to love it. It's still, as you talked about, I still am very active in it. But I decided I didn't want that to be my business. I oddly spent 2 years after politics as president of a chocolate company. It's a whole nother story. But it taught me a lot about
Did you just say
chocolate,
chocolate company? I
chocolate
did
company.
not know that
Yeah,
about
yeah,
you.
chocolate company. And they were liquor filled chocolates. So they used to be illegal in America, those little chocolate liquor bottles. And I was hired by somebody, not because I knew anything about how to run a business, but I knew how to change laws. And so I changed 30 laws in a federal law and made liquor filled chocolates legal in America. But I learned how to run a business, and I learned all the pieces about running a business for those 2 years, running that chocolate company. I left after a while because it wasn't that interesting to me. That's not really what I do. I'm more of a service business person, and was going to find a job. But because I knew so many people, I'd worked for the governor of New Jersey, I'd worked for a congressman from New Jersey. I knew all these people from New Jersey, even though was from Illinois, but I knew all these people from New Jersey. All of a sudden, people started asking me to do things, and they'd pay me for it. So there was no master plan to begin. At that point, I had never set foot in a public relations firm, not in the bathroom, not in the lobby. I'd never been in one. But I was looking at all the different things we were doing, and I said, I could do this. This could be a job. And that's when I began to get very serious about building it and growing it. And that's when I learned that I actually was an entrepreneur, that I had entrepreneurial instincts. I found I had a knack for growing and running a business, for servicing clients, for frankly doing what it was going to take to get the job done. And I often say that our greatest luxury was that we didn't know what we weren't supposed to do. We weren't encumbered by norms. I had always been a break the rules kind of kid. I'd always been a break the rules young adult. And so we went in to do what was right. And people would tell you can't do it. And I'd say, why not? Because you can't. But why can't I? Because you're not supposed to. I said, we're going to try this. And we're going to do it what I think is the right way, notwithstanding the industry norms. And it was very successful. And it led to my core corporate philosophy 34 years later. And that was, it's pretty simple. And that is, if it's the right thing to do it. And if it's not, don't, and how do you figure that out? Go to work every day and do the right thing. And everything else will take care of itself. And so to me, it became relatively simple because I'm a risk taker, because I'm a rule breaker. But, breaking the rules is not easy for everybody. It's easy for people to follow the rules. That's the easiest thing. But to get people to understand that most of these rules we actually made up. So we can change them whenever we want. They're not written in stone. It's not a law of gravity. And so one of the challenges you have as an entrepreneur is to get other people who also think entrepreneurially.
Media change makers, part of what you've been trying to do is to be a voice for more diversity in public relations, and just having more minority representation, more diversity. Could you talk a little bit about what you see as the need in the PR field and where we are and some of the the steps that you're taking, in whether with SOC or not? Like, what is the state of the field?
Well, again, I grew up in a very progressive household. And so to me, diversity, whether it be gender, um, LGBTQ plus, and then ethnic and racial and religious diversity was always something that, I kind of didn't even understand why people didn't have it. It was just how I grew up. It's what you did. So from day one, I think we were the first firm that ever offered partner benefits. When I think the insurance company said you couldn't, and I figured out a way to do it. We're over 70% women, pay equity. I mean, we've always been a leader in that. But to be honest with you, I thought we were doing our best in people of color, getting people of color to work for us. But, in the last 4 or 5 months, came to the conclusion that we weren't doing our best, and that, PR is a very white business and mostly dominated by men. I learned a lot in the last 4 or 5 months. We've had a very strong diversity and inclusion committee at the firm for many years. It's always been something I've been dedicated to. But recent activities have taught all of us, where we're strong and where we're not. I mean, myself and my senior management and throughout the agency, we've really taken the time to learn or unlearn things that we knew or didn't know. So I'm incredibly proud of what we are doing right now, the commitments we've made, the commitments we've already fulfilled. But the fact is that if you don't have a diverse workforce, age, religion, geography, ethnicity, how can you really give clients advice? We live in a multi-personality, multi-demographic world. And so if it's just a bunch of old white men telling a company what they think they should do, you're not going to get the advice that you need. You're not, so, and again, there's nothing wrong with old white men. Old white men have a lot to bring to the party as well. But if it's only one ethnicity, if it's only one age group, if it's only one religion, if it's only one geography, you're not really giving your clients the diversity of advice you need to be. So, we've tried hard, we've fallen down a little bit, but I'm very proud and pleased what we're doing right now.
I think a lot of people on campus know you as a member of the board of trustees, which is a very high profile, important top position at American University. But you also have, a little bit more behind the scenes been involved, as a generous supporter, but also hosting our students when they come to New York for the New York Intensive. And that is, a lot of students say that's a highlight, being able to go on the ground in New York and interact with people who are, it's experiential learning. That's a big focus at American University. You've been on the Dean's Council, you interact with students in a variety of ways. First of all, thank you for all that. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your relationship with American University and the School of Communication, and why do you do all that you do, all the philanthropic and altruistic service to the university? Can you tell us a little bit about that? And maybe even tie it back to your time as a student.
Sure. Well, again, a dirty little secret is I actually graduated from the School of Public Affairs, not even the School of Communications. My wife actually graduated from the School of Communications. Right. I don't, when I talk about altruistic and philanthropic activities, it's kind of just what I do. I do believe that we are put here on the planet to leave it a better place. And I do believe in the mission of the university in Changemakers. I do believe that, very much that the students today are very much going to determine the world tomorrow. I mean, they're coming to the world in a very different place, not just COVID, but, in many ways, employees run the companies today. They have one person has the ability to create dramatic change. And if you take a look at consumer surveys, we've done them, others have done them. Very few people trust government, the clergy, the media. Oddly, people are turning to corporate America to create those big, massive societal changes. So the people at American, or the students at American, they're going to determine their own future to a large degree. AU gave me my start. If it wasn't for the ability to come to Washington and then at AU both encourage and push to utilize everything that Washington was, the ability to take the internships and the independent studies, the ability to really make Washington my campus was pivotal in who I am today. We've been able to work with SOC to create programs for students that also benefit my company. You talk about the people coming, the students coming to visit with us. Whenever I'm in town, I try to make sure that I do at least part of the presentation, because I can look around the room and look at the questions people are asking and how they comport themselves. And there's never been a time where I walk out of the room and I tell my head of HR or somebody, go hire those two people, because even in the 20 minutes or an hour that I spend time with them, there's certain people that just shine. They might ask a great question. They might have a great comment. And, we have many students that came to visit us actually work for us today. I think our most recent one was Kate Gorlin, who came and she shadowed me for a day, and I just said, when can you start? She's fantastic. So that part of it. And then AU is, because of AU's diversity, talking about diversity, one of the channels that we are trying to create is to get many more diverse students apply for jobs, both at our company and in the public relations profession. So working with the School of Communications, we've done Z Suite, we've done a variety of other programs. We're about to announce an extension of those programs soon. And what that does is hopefully it's going to help us both make public relations interesting to more people of color, and create a greater pipeline so we can actually fulfill our mission to be materially more diverse. So I hope it works both to the school's benefit and our benefit. So, I like it. I find it fulfilling, but at the same time, I also hope it's valuable for both parties.
The incoming class of students is very impressive. I've met many of them. The bar has been raised in many ways. They're coming into American University, but they're coming in at a time of a global health crisis, obviously, economic stress, political polarization that is very, very heightened right now, and taking classes online. There's really a lot happening for the young people. I was wondering, Michael, if I could ask you one final question, and what advice would you give to students at any rank, masters to incoming freshmen, about advice about resiliency and getting through this difficult period?
Well, I mean, the first is that it feels like the whole world is collapsing. It's not. The fact is that we'll get through this, and there will be, I lived through multiple recessions, 9/11, 2008, and every time the world will never be the same. And the fact is that the world wasn't exactly the same. It changed. You have to go through metal detectors in airports. You have to take off your shoes. But, it's not as if life has changed because you have to take off your shoes. And so life will be different. There'll be some permanent changes. We don't know exactly what they will be, but it'll get back at some point to being life. And, and the generation that didn't live through this won't even think twice about what those changes are, because they will have grown up with those changes. They won't even know they're different. So the first thing is that it's tough. I wouldn't, being a freshman this year, I think is not a usual year. I mean, the fact is, the great thing about being a freshman, you come from high school, you're living with your parents, and all of a sudden you have all this freedom, for better or worse, and you get to begin to blaze your own trail. And I think some of that's going to be postponed, but not forever. And I mean, we will get a vaccine. We will get rid of Donald Trump. We'll democracy will thrive again. The world will get somewhat normal. But then there's huge issues like climate change, which we need your students to go fix. So I would say that this is a moment in time, even though it doesn't feel that way. I have a daughter who's going to be a senior, and not an American, but going to be a senior. And, what's her senior year going to look like? Well, even if it's all remote, even if it's not the same, 10 years from now, it'll be a non-event in her head. It'll be just part of what was the fabric and made up who she was. And so, this is a time where you're going to prove, are you great or not? Are you resilient or not? Can you, don't let anything get in your way, because this is happening. This is coming. This isn't a surprise right now. It may have been a surprise in March, but it's not a surprise anymore. So how are you going to thrive and prosper? You can use this as an excuse. You can use anything that is somewhat negative as an excuse, or you can say it is what it is and you can power through it. I would argue you don't have a choice. So take the best of what it is, power through it, and don't let it get in your way. You have to be tough mentally. And the advice I give to all students or other people that I speak with, people are very confused about, they're going to be entering the job market where there's no in-person interviews and whole industries aren't hiring. But the fact is there's a whole bunch of industries that are. Not everybody is doing poorly. Some are doing incredibly well. So, my advice is on everything, just start. And if it doesn't work out, do something else. But you can spend months and years worrying about how to take that first step, and where you could have taken 20 different steps during that time and find out the thing you like and you want. So just start. There's the old proverb, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. So you bet, every day you don't plant that tree is another day it's not going to grow. So just start. And if it doesn't work, go do something else. But, this is a time where, there's going to be huge winners and huge losers. And it's up to you whether you want to be on the winning or losing side.
Great advice. Thank you so much for that, Michael. And thanks for your time today. Media Changemaker, Michael Kempner. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Laura. I enjoyed it. Bye.